More than 50 million Americans hold some form of cryptocurrency. This digitalization of financial services is not a trend. It is a transformation. Here at the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, we confirm that national banks and federal savings associations may engage in certain cryptocurrency activities responsibly in order to serve their customers. OCC-regulated banks may provide custody services, including the safekeeping and secure storage of cryptocurrencies and other digital assets.
Things are getting fun, and we are part of this digital asset transformation. The OCC is screaming that banks can custody crypto now. Bitcoin is over 102,000, and XDC is making moves in Europe, Ripple making moves in the UAE, and we have great SEC news this evening, as well as some regulation news. Welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everyone is doing absolutely fantastic and you're calm and you're thinking about your future. I am Zip and excited to be on this crypto journey with you. Welcome to all the new subscribers, and hopefully I'll gain your trust, and by the end of this video, if you haven't subscribed already, you will. Now, today, let's get straight into the news, and at the end of that, I'm going to give some small part of a blueprint for my strategy to ensure I have transformational wealth as we're in these crypto markets and they're getting excited. All right, let's get into it. Big news coming out of Europe. XDC has officially joined the Micah Crypto Alliance. But, you know, what's that really mean? Well, for XDC, for regulators, and for the future of crypto in Europe, it means big things. In May 2025, today, XDC announced it's joined the Micah Crypto Alliance. It's a growing coalition of crypto networks aligning with Europe's regulatory framework. Micah, which is the Micah or the markets in crypto assets regulation. So, big picture, it means XDC isn't just compliant, it's now helping to shape the rules from the inside. Let's break this down, what the alliance actually means, and really carries three big strategic wins for us of that whole XDC and really crypto at large, which you'll see here in a minute. So by joining the alliance, XDC is signaling to the EU regulators, hey, we're legit and we want to play by the rules, and we want to help make the rules, the regulations better. You know, it's a hybrid design. We have a public ledger for transparency, private subnets on XDC for confidentiality is a strong match that regulators and institutions are going to love. Secondly, it's going to bring institutional adoption because banks, custodians, and fund managers are looking for compliant chains that they want to work with. And XDC is already supported by Fireblocks, Copper, and even, you know, BlackRock-backed tokenized funds within it. Now, with the alliance backing, institutions can move forward with fewer compliance concerns. That's what it's about. It's about the regulation as we've been speaking to. And that's what Micah over in the EU brings to the table. Thirdly, it allows policy influence by XDC. You know, XDC is no longer just going to be reacting to the laws. It's helping to implement and to write them. Through working groups and consultations, it can ensure that the Micah guidance actually works for real world utility blockchains and use cases like trade finance. You know, and we know this isn't just about one blockchain. You know, XDC's move reflects a bigger shift, and other players are stepping in and not backing up as regulations go. We know that as part of this alliance, we have Ripple and Hedera, as well as the Aptos Foundation, were the founding members for this. So they're just all joining forces. And remember, other chains that are part of the alliance, like Hedera and Ripple, they're all, again, going to be interoperable. They're working together, and we can see that coming into fruition. You know, we're seeing regulations all around the world. We know here in America, regulations are trying to go through, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But with Micah setting the global tone, compliance is becoming a competitive advantage. And XDC is one of those strong projects that I absolutely love, and it's exciting to see them getting involved in the Micah coalition and the rulemaking. I make no mistake, you got to believe that this has been part of the long-term strategy for the XDC Foundation. And it wants, you know, blockchains to be regulated. And now they're targeting Europe and just building more trust. So great news. And we're going to see other big things coming from this as we go into the future. Now, what else is going on? Ripple just making another billion-dollar power play. And it's all happening over in the Middle East, from groundbreaking regulatory approvals to moving a new office with their recently acquired Hidden Road office acquisition. The crypto payments giant is turning the UAE into its next global stronghold. Absolutely big and exciting. And this just isn't another expansion. This is really establishing a blueprint for the future of blockchain and finance overtaking the world. We know the infrastructure is changing. We know the financial system is changing, and we're watching this happen in real time. So Ripple became the first blockchain-powered payments firm to get a license from the Dubai Financial Services Authority. This opens immense doors for its products like Ripple Payments using what? XRP to serve businesses across Dubai's financial hub. Ripple can now offer regulated real-world crypto-powered payments in the UAE. This isn't hype. This is actual use case in and happening, not theory. Very exciting to see. And along with that, today we see now Hidden Road, a prime brokerage firm that Ripple just is in the process of taking acquisition in, is gained approval to open shop in Abu Dhabi under the watch of the Financial Services Authority. And we read through the article. If you go out there and read through it, sources are saying that members of the royal family may even join Hidden Road's local board. Now, this is absolutely big news. Hidden Road, we know, also has a green light from FINRA in the US to operate as a broker-dealer, giving Ripple a regulated footprint across two of the most influential markets in finance. Now, with this, Ripple is building a global non-bank prime brokerage ecosystem, you know, for crypto as well as traditional assets. And here's the big deal. Ripple is becoming a full stack crypto finance platform. You know, they're going to be handling payments. We have the Ripple custody solutions, brokerages, and settlement, all under regulatory oversight. That's the key. That's the big picture. They're doing it the right way, and they're implementing their environment in the correct manner. The UAE is playing a central role in this. Excuse me. And Ripple is positioning itself as a trusted digital asset partner for governments, for banks, institutions, and fintechs. This behemoth just keeps growing in scale, which should absolutely provide holders a ton of confidence. I know I'm excited about it. And more great news dropping today. The SEC case was filed today with the judge. Breaking, the SEC Gov has filed the settlement letter agreement letter, basically establishing how to close out this case. Finally, we're getting closer and closer. Now it's at the judge's doorstep, and she just has to make her ruling. As James K. Filan says here, Judge Torres needs to provide an indicative ruling as to whether the court could, one, dissolve the injunction and release the escrow with $50 million going to the SEC and the balance back to Ripple, which Brad and Ripple have talked about previously. If Judge Torres provides the indicative ruling, the SEC and Ripple will ask the Second Circuit for a limited remand back to the Judge Torres to ask for relief described above. Upon granting of that remand, the SEC and Ripple will file a motion with Judge Torres asking for the relief described above. After the injunction is dissolved and the funds are distributed, the SEC and Ripple will ask the Court of Appeals to dismiss the SEC's appeal and Ripple's cross appeal. And then it's over, ladies and gentlemen. That is the end of the show, the end of the road for this case that has been with us. If you're an XRP holder since 2020 when it was first filed, absolutely exciting. We're so close. I can taste it. I hope you can see what's going on here as all these environments are coming together as the financial system is being upgraded in front of us. Very exciting news. Now, quick drop on the stablecoin bill. For those of you that may not know, they voted on the Genius Act today to try to get it through Congress. It did not go through and it failed. However, that's not the end of the road. These things have to go through markup, and it's just the way the system is. It's very political, and there's a back and forth between one side and the other side, Republican, Democrat, whatever the case may be. That's what's going on, and they're going to try to push it back again next week for a vote. I'll have more on that probably tomorrow, but now I want to get into, because I'm asked all the time about my wealth plan, my strategy, what I'm going to be doing, and we're just going to go over a few things real quick before we end this video tonight. So let's just talk about market cycles. Okay, I have expressed this in other videos. So traditionally, we're in a 4-year traditional cycle. For you folks that are new to this environment and you're trying to figure out what is going on, well, everything traditionally has been done in cycles. We'll have a 4-year cycle, we'll have a bear cycle, and a bull cycle. We are getting ready. We are in a bull cycle right now. And we can see that the markets, as I said, BTC is up to 102,000. XRP's pumped a little bit. All these markets are pumping right now. I am still holding firm that Q3, Q4 is going to be the most explosive growth for the altcoins and a lot of the coins that I speak to. But it's just part of the cycle. Now, as utility is coming in and these regulations are coming in, I believe these 4-year cycles are going to be truncated, and they're not going to be 4 years anymore. They're going to be a little bit more stable, if you would, especially as utility begins to come in and these institutions are being onboarded. So for newcomers, the big thing is don't FOMO. As we look at this the way the traditional markets go, there's the hope phase, there's the optimism phase, which is about where we are right now. And then there's a belief phase because everything is pumping. And then there's the thrill. We have the extreme pump and the euphoria phase. Now, not being through this before, you are going to have FOMO. You're going to be excited and you're going to think things are going to continue to go up. And that would be fantastic if they did. But traditionally, that's not what happens. And we begin to go right back down again. So that's why I want to talk about the exit strategies and talk about my plan. And again, this is not financial advice. This is just what I'm doing. This is how I handle my business. You have to handle yours your own way, but I want to give you different ideas. So especially if you're new, or maybe you have never had a plan, you've been in this market for 4 or 5 or 6 years and you've just been holding, this is the time, ladies and gentlemen. It's really getting exciting. We're going to have the regulation. We're going to have the SEC case for XRP behind us. We're seeing XDC making big moves. All the players are coming together. Stellar, I sat on a webcast yesterday with Stellar XLM for their quarterly review. They have a ton going on as well. Everyone is in this extreme growth phase and what's going on. But with the markets, you just got to give it, time, basically. Now, what I generally do, this is my plan. This doesn't have to be your plan, but I'm just giving you an example here. What can traditionally happen is, I'm always going to hold a defined amount, okay? And you can see in these pie charts here, we have one that's XRP and one that's Stellar, but I'm always going to hold a minimum of 50% of my assets, okay? Now, as I've stated previously, you have to be flexible. That plan could change. I may go to holding 75% of XRP or maybe 100%. And that's why I'm diversified in other, crypto, because I may use that to leverage so I can take more profit. The point here is to show you that regardless of what bags, even if you have one bag, you have to have a plan. But what you don't want to do is sell out too early because we're seeing the utility coming in. So the longer you can hold, it's the time in the markets that you can hold, the more money and profits you can make. But if you sell your whole bag too early, you're going to lose out on a lot of money. All right. So again, how this works, 50% long-term hold, never going to sell, going to maintain it, to wait and see and let the markets cook and figure out how to earn different ways of passive income, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But at different laddered approaches, we'll start with XLM as an example. I'm going to, sell 10%, say at $3 of my bag. Okay. Now, I may just sell that right into like a stable coin, RLUSD or USDC. And then once the market dips back down and what we were looking at previously with that cycle coming back down, I will buy back in, because what's that going to do? It's going to multiply the amount of money and assets that I have in my bag. Or I may sell out and do one of the other things that we'll talk about in the next slide presentation. But then I have my next laddered approach, selling XLM at $9, another 10%. And then at $15, another 10%. And then $25, another 10%. And at $50, at another 10% for this cycle. Now, am I saying that XLM is going to $50 this cycle? Absolutely not. But I want to have those targets locked in my mind so I don't get into position, a psychological position, and have FOMO and get so excited that I just sit there and I'm paralyzed and I just watch the market go all the way up without taking some profit. Now, some of this has to do with your age as well. Okay, I can tell by the analytics, a lot of my subscribers are between 40 and 55 years old. You may be set up like this because you're getting closer to retirement, so to speak. Again, I'm never going to retire. I'm going to find something else exciting to do with these profits that are coming. But if you're young in your 20s or 30s, you may want to hold even longer. So your disposition of how you assemble your pie here may be different, but the same thing for XRP as the other example, 50% as of right now, holding long term. And it depends, maybe it depends on the size of your bag as well. You have to do the calculations is the bottom line. But the same thing at $10, sell 10%. At $20, sell 10% of XRP. At $35, sell another 10%. And then at $60, sell another 10%. And if and when it hits $100, sell another 10%, because that may be life-changing money that I can take, even if I take the profit and I do go back to the fiat system, so I can, pay down debt if you have it. It does you no good to accumulate all this money on paper if you still are carrying a lot of debt. Get things paid off, if you have that debt. But I'm going to maintain a minimum of 50% so I can use it for what really gets exciting, which is really the wealth game altogether, my crypto wealth game, at least how I see things, that pyramid that I talk about and how I have things structured. That first level is diversification for me. All right. I buy utility, real case crypto. That's what I like to invest in. ISO 222 crypto predominantly is what I talk about. So we're talking about XRP, HBAR, XDC, XLM, SHX, Algo, ADA, Flare. You want to keep your mind open, okay? And not have walled gardens. If the only thing that you own is XRP, you're going to, in my opinion, be absolutely phenomenal. But we tend to get in these walled gardens where we're missing out on maybe new coins, new capabilities that are coming online that absolutely may make us profit as well. Like SHX. SHX is still below a penny, is that like 1 cent or whatever. So you can accumulate a large bag, a significant amount of SHX for, a little bit of money. And as SHX grows, I'm going to do that pie, I'm going to do the pie, the same thing. I'm going to dump 10%. And when it goes back down, I'm going to buy back in. That's how we increase our bags and the amount of bags we have. But you have to have a very strategic thought process. So that's the diversification and the buying the utility that I do. And then again, we're going to continue to accumulate these cryptos. Weekly, we're going to dollar cost average in on a weekly or a monthly basis. Just pick a number that is comfortable for you of what you can afford to possibly purchase every week or every month. If it's only $50 a month, that's fine, especially if you're buying into like SHX or even XLM that is still a little cheaper to get into, XDC. Your bags, you're going to own a lot of crypto very, very fast, but you want the deliberate action to consistently, non-emotionally buy into good projects. Now, there may be other projects that are fantastic. These are just some examples, and I am not, again, giving you advice to dive into those. These are some of the ones that I like, and it's just some of them. But there's so many projects out there. But what you don't want to do is spread yourself too thin at the same time, buying, in my opinion, into meme coins or non-utility things that don't have any kind of real world use case. That's what you want to be careful of. Now, thirdly, we're going to manage these profits as we're taking them. Again, we talked about the laddered exits and other steps here. We're going to hold profits till a dip and then rebuy back in. That's that exit of a 10%. And when it dips back down and goes down 20%, 15%, maybe 40, 50%, whatever the case may be, I'm going to buy back in so I can get and accumulate that much more. That's managing your wealth environment. And then I'm also, if I exit profits, I'm generally going to exit to other assets. I don't want to hold, a dollar. As we talked about in other videos, holding the dollar, you're losing wealth by holding the dollar because of inflation and all the other stuff that happens in this fractionalized system that we currently have. But I'm going to diversify into other assets like real estate, possibly gold, silver. Those are good buys as well. But some kind of asset that is going to maintain and stabilize and secure my profits, my money. I'm also going to exit my profits into insurance. I've made videos on that and I've talked about that a couple of times as far as the infinite banking into a strategic specifically designed, a very specific, special type of whole life insurance so that it is secured. And then I'm going to earn and compound that, which we'll talk about in step 4. But I'm also going to possibly in the future take loans, which are what? Tax-free. We're talking about leveraging our crypto and keeping it tax-free so we don't have to worry about any kind of tax consequence. And then there's other capabilities within the management. Staking, which talked about. Flare is going to have XRP staking coming very shortly. Okay, we're going to play with that. We're going to get in very small, very cautiously, and not extend our whole bag until we understand the environment. So again, just being very, very, very judicious and just having a well thought out plan. That is the name of the game. And lastly, you may want to do DeFi, but I caution you, if you are going to do DeFi, there's a lot of study to understand there, and permanent loss and a lot of the other things that can cost you money if you're not careful in the DeFi environment. So again, we would start very, very small, and I will do videos and content on that as we're going along, and I'm growing the channel, and we're growing in this journey together, because that's what it's about. I want everyone to win, and that's the point to putting these videos out here. Now, lastly, fourth, we want to preserve our wealth. Now, for me, how I'm doing that long term, there's 2 ways we're going to do it. Infinite banking, again, that's the insurance. I'm sticking my money into a specially designed insurance product, and I'm going to compound and earn 4 to 7% annually on that money. Okay. And then I'm going to be able to take loans from that insurance policy, and I'm going to be able to buy and accumulate, diversify into other assets. I'll just start right back down at the pyramid here. And as I'm making profits, I'll pay that loan off. All right. Little deeper video I probably need to go into with regards to how that environment works, but it's phenomenal because it's tax-free, and my whole amount of money continues to grow no matter how much of the loan I take. That whole, if I put $100,000 into the policy, $100,000 grows annually. Okay, if I take $50,000 loan, $100,000 still grows because I'm taking the loan from the insurance company. And yes, there's a fee involved there, a rate of charge, but it doesn't matter because I'm putting it into high dollar profits into other assets, not to go buy stuff. Now, there's trusts as well, and trusts are a huge component of this as well, to establish a trust so that you have tax deferral for generational wealth. All right. That's how the Rockefellers do it. That's how the Vanderbilts did it. That's how all of these big money folks do it. All right. And I will maybe even put more money into Bitcoin, because if you haven't been paying attention, there are several states now that are establishing Bitcoin reserves. And I believe Bitcoin is going to be here as a product to be able to capture and secure and preserve my money, and then also be able to take loans from it. You see, ladies and gentlemen, this is all a circle of life in the wealth strategy here, and everything, each level plays off of another level. And that's what I'm trying to bring to you, and hopefully just give you ideas. Again, this is just one of my strategies. It may not make sense to you, and it may not be a good fit for you, but at least take the time to educate yourselves and understand what we're talking about here. Because at the end of the day, the one thing I know that is true and that you do need is you need to have a very strategic strategy in order to maintain your wealth, because a great wealth transfer is coming to us. And if you own XRP, HBAR, XDC, XLM, and these other utility coins that I'm talking about, the market is getting ready to explode, but we want that long-term macro view. We want to look 4 years to 10 years out into the future and stay up to date with all of the information. Now, I hope you got something out of that tonight, and that with all the information we dropped about XRP and what they're doing over in the Middle East, and XDC lighting it up with Micah, as well as phenomenal news that the SEC case is just about completely done. All this is coming to us, and I just want you to be prepared. So I hope you, again, got something out of this. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I try to reply to all of them. Ignore the scammers and the bots and anything else in the comments. If anyone's asking you, or if they're taking on my persona, it's not me. I'm never going to ask you anything about your crypto, what you own, what your keys are, or anything like that. I'm only on this platform on YouTube and on X. Feel free to join me out on X as well as we grow that community. And I'm putting information out there because there is a wealth of knowledge that can be used, and we can use it as a tool together to grow into the future. But until next time, be very safe. Keep your mindset on positive lock, and we will see you on the beaches of the world someday. Zip is out.